In the NHL draft, like every sport, the best players are selected at the top of the first round, and every pick, in theory, gets less and less valuable as the picks keep happening and the rounds go on. Some of the best players in the NHL, like Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Nathan MacKinnon, and Sidney Crosby, were drafted number 1 overall and have proven to be the best players in their respective draft class. And although this is the case, not everyone who is drafted in the first round or even number 1 overall turns out to be a star player in the National Hockey League. Many teams are able to get star and even superstar talent late in the first round, and in some cases even in rounds 2 through 7. This is one of my favorite things about sports in general, and specifically hockey. Some players get overlooked or underscouted and end up being big-time steals down the road, and people wonder how so many teams passed on them when they could have been selected way earlier. Every team has at least one of these huge steals, being a player drafted late in the first round or in rounds 2 through 7. And that is why in today's video, I will be showing you every NHL team's biggest draft steal. And since there are 31 teams in the NHL, I will be breaking this video into 2 parts. So if you want to see part 2, make sure to like and subscribe, and that video will be coming out very soon. This video shows every team's current draft steal that was drafted and still plays with the team they were drafted by. Anyone selected after pick 20 in the first round, and of course any of the other rounds of the draft qualifies. Going in alphabetical order, we'll start it off with the Anaheim Ducks and John Gibson. Gibson was drafted in 2011 in the second round, 39th overall, and despite going in round 2, he was only the second goalie to be selected, right behind Magnus Hellberg, who was taken by Nashville and has only played 4 NHL games compared to Gibson's over 300. Although Gibson isn't having the best season, he has been the Ducks starter for the past 6 seasons and is one of the best goalies in the NHL when he's on his game. He's even finished top 10 in the Vezina Trophy vote twice, which is pretty good for a second rounder. For the Arizona Coyotes, I'm going with Connor Garland. Garland was drafted in 2015 in the 5th round, 123rd overall, and he's one of the many players in this video that is undersized, which is one of the biggest reasons why players like him fall in the draft. Garland had to prove himself in the minors before getting his shot in the NHL, but has been one of the best offensive players on the Coyotes the last 2 seasons on a team that has lots of trouble scoring goals. This 5th round pick is currently the 2nd leading point scorer on the Yotes and led the team in goals last season. The Boston Bruins are a team that has had quite a few draft steals on their team, which is a big reason why they've been such a good team for such a long time. But for the biggest one, I had to go with Brad Marchand. Marchand was drafted in 2006 in the 3rd round with the 71st pick. He also had to develop for parts of 2 seasons in the American Hockey League and then put up just 1 point in his first 20 NHL games. The little ball of hate went from being a solid 40 to 50 point player and an absolute pest to play against into one of the very best players in the NHL on one of the best lines in hockey. His 3 85+ point and 1 100 point campaigns prove just that. It was a little difficult to find a big time draft steal from the Buffalo Sabres, but there was one guy that stood out from the rest, him being Victor Olofsson. Olofsson was drafted in the 7th round, 181st in the 2014 entry draft. This guy lit up the American Hockey League, scoring 30 goals and 63 points in 66 games in his first pro season in North America. And although he's only played 2 seasons in the NHL, he has been one of the few bright spots on the Sabres, tied for 1st on the team in scoring this year. He also had 20 goals and 42 points last year in 54 games, and was very effective on the power play and playing with Jack Eichel with that lethal wrister. For the Calgary Flames, I have to go with Johnny Gaudreau. Gaudreau was drafted in 2011 in the 4th round, 104th overall. Part of this was due to the fact that he was likely going to be playing at least 3 years at Boston College, and after a certain amount of time playing in college, a player that is drafted doesn't necessarily have to sign with the team that they were drafted by. We've seen countless players sign with other teams despite being drafted by someone else. But luckily for the Flames, Johnny Hockey ended up signing with the Flames and has been their best offensive player since. Johnny has led the Flames in scoring in 4 of his first 6 full NHL seasons with the team, including his 99-point season where he finished 7th in league scoring and 4th in the Hart Trophy voting. For the Carolina Hurricanes, there were a couple I could have gone with, but I'm choosing their best player, Sebastian Aho. Aho was drafted in 2015 in the second round, 35th overall, in what many consider the best draft since 2003. Aho has stepped into the NHL and gotten better and better each season, hovering right around a point per game each of the last 3 years. He's led the Canes in scoring each of the last 3 seasons and will likely do it again this year. He scored 38 goals last year and is not only an offensive threat, but a solid two-way player who is responsible all over the ice. He's a huge reason why the Canes have emerged as one of the better teams in the league over the last few seasons. Next up for the Chicago Blackhawks, yet another undersized player, it's Alex DeBrincat. DeBrincat was taken also in the second round, 39th overall in the 2016 draft. He's a guy who certainly had the talent to go in the first round, but since he's only 5'7", 165 pounds, teams shied away from him. And as of the time of this video, there are only 3 players from the 16 draft who have put up more points than DeBrincat. Those guys being Austin Matthews, Patrick Laine, and Matthew Tkachuk. And only Matthews and Laine have more goals than the Cat. He's a perfect complement to Patrick Kane's game and has been one of the top scorers on the Blackhawks since he came into the league. Now for the Colorado Avalanche. Since there are so many new pieces on this year's team, and the rest of the team being high draft picks, I had to choose a player who was not drafted by the Avalanche, but has played practically his entire NHL career with the team. That player is Samuel Girard. Girard was drafted by the Nashville Predators in the 2016 draft, second round, 47th overall, but only played 5 games with Nashville before getting traded to Colorado. Girard is one of the many young and talented defensemen on this Avalanche team and is a fantastic skater, puck mover, and point producer, currently leading all Avs D-men in scoring, even though Makar has played 10 less games. There were 12 defensemen drafted ahead of Girard in 2016, and only 2 of those guys have more points, those being Sergachev and McAvoy. The next name, courtesy of the Columbus Blue Jackets, is yet another player who is smaller in stature, but hasn't let that hold him back in his hockey career. It's Cam Atkinson. Atkinson was taken in the 6th round, 157th overall in the 2008 draft, and was kind of the Johnny Gaudreau before Johnny Gaudreau, because there are many parallels in these guys' stories, and both played 3 seasons at Boston College. Atkinson has been a big-time goal scorer for the Blue Jackets, having a 35 and 41 goal season and averaging about 25 goals every full NHL season. He's the type of player any team would love to have and has been a super consistent offensive weapon for the Jackets since the 2013-14 season. For the Dallas Stars, I wrestled hard about who to choose for this one, but I ended up with the captain Jamie Benn. Benn was taken in the 5th round, 129th overall in 2007. He dropped so low because he was playing in a heavily underscouted region in the BCHL and was also looked at by many as being very slow and lacking strength at the time. Benn has proved everyone wrong and has been an extremely difficult player to take off the puck in his 12-year career. He's been an unbelievable story, even winning the Art Ross Trophy in 2014-15 and finishing 3rd in MVP voting the next year as well. He was the 129th player taken in the draft, but has the 3rd most points of anyone selected in 2007. And the only guys with more points are Patrick Kane and Jacob Voracek. For the Detroit Red Wings, I decided to go with defenseman Filip Hronek. Hronek was taken in the 2nd round, 53rd overall in 2016. This is a guy who, at the time I'm making this video, is actually leading the Red Wings in scoring with 21 points in 37 games. At 23 years old, he looks like a guy that will be a big part of the Wings' future as they continue to get more of their prospects developed and into the NHL. There were 15 D-men drafted ahead of Roenick in 2016, and only 4 have more points so far in their careers. From the Edmonton Oilers, I'm going with another of the smallest players in the league, Kailer Yamamoto. Yamamoto was drafted in 2017 in the first round, 22nd overall, and he hasn't played too much hockey in the NHL just yet, but has shown flashes of excellence. With 26 points in 27 games in the 2019-20 season, this year he is 6th on the team in scoring, and his production has dropped a little bit, but he's still only 22 years old. He is 10th in scoring with regards to the rest of his draft class, despite playing a lot less games than most of the players above him. For the Florida Panthers, it was a little tough to find a big steal, but I ended up going with Mackenzie Weegar. Weegar was taken in the 7th round, 206th overall in the 2013 draft. He spent 3 seasons in the AHL and even 20 games in the East Coast League, but has now found a home in the NHL, with the Panthers currently playing top 4 on the blue line and averaging over 22 minutes a night. The odds of anyone drafted in the 7th round having a prominent career in the NHL are very slim, and Weegar has defied all odds by doing it. He's developed into a solid player at the NHL level and is currently 3rd among defensemen in points, behind only teammates Ekblad and Keith Yandel. Our next big-time steal comes from the Los Angeles Kings and goes by the name Jonathan Quick. Quick was drafted in the 3rd round, 72nd overall in 2005. There were only 7 goalies taken ahead of Quick in 2005, and none have more cups than Quick. The only guys you could argue may be better than Quick are Carey Price and Tuukka Rask, both taken in the 1st round. Quick has been one of the most clutch goaltenders of his generation, winning 2 Stanley Cups in LA and also winning the Conn Smythe in the 2012 playoffs, putting on one of the best goalie performances in NHL playoff history. He's also finished top 5 for the Vezina 3 times. Pretty good for a 3rd rounder. The next on the list, and the last in this video, comes via the Minnesota Wild. Its current rookie, Kirill Kaprizov. Kaprizov was taken in the 5th round in 2015, 135th overall, and is a kid that Wild fans have been waiting quite a while for. Part of the reason why he wasn't selected higher in the draft was because teams knew it would be a long shot for him to play in the NHL, let alone make an impact on their team in the near future. Kaprizov played 5 more seasons in the KHL after being drafted, and has proven to be worth the wait since his arrival in Minnesota. He clearly looks like the frontrunner for Rookie of the Year, leading all rookies in scoring and also leading his team in scoring as a 23-year-old through the midpoint of the season. He is an extremely exciting player to watch and could be changing the culture in Minnesota after a long stretch of mediocrity for the franchise. Okay, that'll do it for part 1 of this video series. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and tune back into the channel for part 2 coming shortly.